In the last couple of months, Mozambique has been going through a lot of turmoil. There's been unrest, there's been protests, there's been violence because of disputed general elections. They went to the ballot to try and elect members of parliament and a president, and these results were highly contested. And we've seen events unfold in Mozambique very quickly, very rapidly. We've seen people lose their lives, police use a lot of force, looting, burning of government buildings, and most recently, we saw inmates escape maximum prison. It was prison break on the African continent. Hello there, how are you doing? Welcome to another episode of the New Dawn Africa channel. My name is Ondiro Oganga. Happy New Year to you who's taken time to watch our channel. I'd taken a brief break to just focus on myself, get back on my feet. I took a health break. I did a note on the community. If you did not see it, I'll attach the link into the description. And thank you so much for being here. As I said, my name is Ondiro Oganga. I'm a business journalist by profession, and I'm also a digital content creator, and I love making content about Black people, Africans, how we can empower and emancipate ourselves and take our rightful place in the global stage. Today, I want us to focus on Mozambique. So sometime in October, on the 9th of October, Mozambique went to the polls and they were trying to hold a general election where they're going to elect members of parliament and they're also going to elect a president. Now, to just give you a brief history or background of Mozambique, there has been the ruling party in Mozambique, which is Frelimo. This is a very popular and old party that goes all the way back to 1975 when this country got independence. They've been through a civil war and now they've restored democracy, peace, and stability into their country. And the party that has been in power is the ruling party, Frelimo. Now, Mozambique has been able to build itself, to make some form of development, to make strides, but people are not satisfied. So Mozambique is a very wealthy nation in terms of resources. First of all, they have access to the port, and the port is really important because it's one of the major ports that serves most of the Southern African countries that are landlocked, and even other countries that have ports. There's some goods from South Africa that still get shipped out into the world through the port of Mozambique. This is also a country that is rich in natural gas. They recently struck a deal. It's not recent, it's been a couple of years. They struck a deal with Total Energies. It's a $20 billion natural gas project. Now, I want you to take note of these numbers because we're going to come back to them. This is also a country with key minerals such as graphite that is really important for EV, and EV is a really key industry that is redefining green energy solutions of the future and mobility also. And they also have ruby. In fact, the ruby mines in Mozambique account for half of total global supply. Now, with all that context in mind, let's examine where Mozambique is. Inflation is high, the economy is not doing well, people feel like life is not going great for them. In fact, during this protest, the opposition leader, Venancio Mondlane, who only garnered about 20% of the votes and asked people to go to protest, and we'll get to that in a bit, was telling them that the quality of life that they're living does not match up to the resources that the country have. How do you have all these resources that I just mentioned, yet people live below $2 a day? People live about $2.19 in a day. And that is where the conflict of interest comes in. If you also take a look at this country, they're churning out about 500,000 graduates every single year, yet 1 out of every 3 people are unemployed. And we saw scenes most recently during graduations in Mozambique where young people were chanting the name of Venancio Mondlane during their graduations. Now, let's get to the elections with all this in mind. People are angry at the ruling party because all these years they feel like the ruling party has not been able to do much to change their lives for the better. They feel like healthcare is not progressing, infrastructure is not progressing, education is not progressing, quality of life, and jobs, because jobs is always that one touchy subject, not just in Mozambique, but the whole African continent. Young people are beginning to rise up and say, we've done everything right. We've gone to school, we've gotten the good grades, we've put in the hard work. We want to be rewarded for our effort. And when they see that they don't have jobs yet, there's a lot of wastage in government, there's a lot of corruption. Those are some of the things that anger them. So it was a case of people wanted a different regime to bring different things. And also Frelimo has been in power for so long, and people feel like whatever they were not able to do for the nearly 3 decades that they've been in power, they're not going to do it now. And that was the basis of discontentment in this election cycle. You had Venancio Mondlane, who was the opposition candidate, or rather the dark horse of the race, and you had Daniel Chapo, who was the candidate from the Frelimo party, which is the ruling and governing party. And when elections were held, election results showed that the ruling party won by 70%. Now, these results were hotly contested, not just locally, but also international observers said that they saw things that are not aligned to election regulations. There was tampering with election results. There was stuffing of ballot papers in the ballot boxes. And these are things that raise questions on the validity and the integrity of the election results. This case was taken to the Constitutional Council to determine the outcome. But I need you to remember that when the election results were announced, people were really discontent with these results and protests were called. And this was the beginning of that cycle of unrest in Mozambique. So they've been going through a cycle of protests. It was in 4 waves: wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and it has been escalating bit by bit by bit. One of the things that tipped the bucket for this protest was during the early days of this protest, when Venancio Mondlane, who's opposition leader, went out to the streets to also protest with his people. Police directly tear gassed him, and also one of his close confidants and his lawyer was shot dead by the police. And this was the beginning of police brutality in Mozambique. They've been accused of using excessive force. The death toll has been rising. And when the Constitutional Court upheld the verdict, that is where everything went south. So the Constitutional Court said that the results are valid, but they just reduced the margin from about 70 to 65%. And what people are arguing is it's not the work of the Constitutional Council to negotiate the results. Their job is to determine the validity and the integrity of those results. And there were alternative routes to pursue this. If you listen to Venancio Mondlane prior to the Constitutional Court announcing this, he was speaking about the council has the power to either descend the country into chaos or lead them back into prison. That's exactly what we've seen. And it has unfolded and escalated quite quickly. We saw there was a prison break, nearly 1,500 inmates broke out. There was massive looting of shops, of food stores, and many business owners are really heartbroken because they've lost plenty of their hard work. The anger runs deep. There was burning of government offices. And you know, when you talk to civil society bodies, they're talking about how so many lives have been lost and floors were covered in blood. And so the situation just continues to escalate and escalate and escalate. So where does Mozambique find itself right now, and why is this story important? I think that Mozambique finds itself in a really tricky place where, as they move towards inaugurating Daniel Chapo as the president-elect mid-January, the president-elect needs to find a middle ground and call the opposition on the table and say, can we broker a peace deal? And this is where it gets really interesting. And probably once this is done, we'll come back here and do another video. It shouldn't be one of those deals where we've seen in Kenya where the opposition leader, they get positions, they just divide the power amongst themselves. Whatever deal is brokered, they must have the interest of the people at heart. That power brokerage deal has to be, how are we going to serve the people of Mozambique better? How are we going to solve their daily challenges? And if that doesn't happen, people are going to go back to the streets. It's important to understand that people are not just supporting Mondlane, they're supporting the cause. And the place that Africa is, there's a renaissance right now where issues are bigger than politics. People are focusing on policies. And if the politicians in Mozambique are not awake to this and not aware to this, then it's bound to be a long cycle of protest for them. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ondiro Oganga. Connect with me on social media across all platforms. at Ondiro Oganga. I'll also attach a PayPal link in the description where you can support the work that we do. Some of that money will go into creating this content for you and paying a video editor. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again next time.